Morning, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock and welcome everybody to the February 2026 edition of the Township of Muskoka Lakes Planning Committee meeting. I'm confirming that we have, I believe, all members are present except for one who we are expecting at around 11 o'clock. That's Councillor Zavitz. We have two online, and therefore we have a quorum. We also have the CAO, Deputy Clerk, the Director of Development Services and Environmental Sustainability, and member of staff are here. The public input on the agenda was invited through the email to the Township. Today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. By participating in the open meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. We do have one supplemental agenda related to 14A, and that is Mr. Steve Dahl is going to be one of the public comments. Committee, do we have any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we're going to have a slight modification to the agenda, and we're actually going to hear item I think it's 14A, which is some unfinished business, which is zoning bylaw amendment. Yule, we're going to hear that first today to accommodate a request from the planner, the applicant's planner. And I think we'll start with Ms. Walker.
Just wait for the presentation to come up. Thank you, Chair Bosenworth, and good morning, members of committee. The first application to be heard is zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 50/24 in the name of Yule. Next slide, please. The purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 50/24 is to construct dwelling additions, increase the height of a dwelling, and redevelop and relocate the garage. The applicants are also proposing to legalize an as-built sun deck that has been changed from permeable to impermeable. The application was originally presented to committee on July 17th, 2025. The application was deferred for the applicants to address the following items. The first is a reduction in the height of the proposed dwelling within 35 feet of the high water mark. 2, satisfactory drawings that illustrate the revised height in relation to the setbacks from the high water mark. 3, satisfactory confirmation that a propane tank not shown on the submitted site plan is in compliance with the zoning bylaw requirements. 4, a reduction in built form / density in addition to the reduction in height of the proposed dwelling. And 5, site-specific development details in order to assist committee with its understanding of the property and its history. Next slide, please. The applicants have amended their proposal to address the items that I've just listed, and these changes include the following. The first is a reduction in the height of the dwelling within 35 feet of the high water mark, accompanied by drawings and illustrations showing these revisions. The second is a reduction in the height of the proposed two-story garage from 21.6 feet to 20.7 feet. The third is a reduction in the proposed lot coverage from 17.06% to 17.04%. This encompasses the easterly side sun deck being reduced in size to now be impermeable, and the garage has been reduced in size from what has originally been proposed. And the fourth change is the relocation of the propane tank in compliance with the township zoning bylaw. Additional information to help address committee's questions about the site-specific development have been included in the staff report today. Next slide, please. Staff's main concern with the original proposal was that the proposed increase in dwelling height within 35 feet of the high water mark. Staff had concerns with the visual impact the proposed increase in height would have on lakeside views, in particular due to the close proximity of the dwelling to the lake. The current dwelling is 22.8 feet in height. The applicant originally proposed to increase the dwelling to be 27.3 feet in height. The amended proposal proposes to increase the height of the dwelling to 25.3 feet, which is an increase of 2.5 feet, but a reduction from what was originally proposed. Next slide, please. If committee is considering approval, staff would recommend that the proposed development be made subject to site plan control to ensure that the existing plantings are maintained and, if appropriate, additional plantings are installed. Through the site plan control process, staff will be requesting a more detailed planting plan of the existing vegetation to ensure that there is an adequate buffer between the existing dwelling and the lake. If additional plantings are required, staff may require a planting plan to be submitted by a qualified professional. Next slide, please. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. Staff have recommended that the approval of the subject application, subject to the revisions and the proposed development being made subject to site plan control. I have no other comments, but I'm happy to assist with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Mr. Hungerford, is he online? Thank you.
There we go.
Good morning, Mr. Hungerford.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Many members of
Welcome. You
staff.
have 5 minutes, then start with your name and address.
Thank you very much. My name is Peter Hungerford. I'm a registered principal planner with MP Planning and Associates, and our firm address is 44 King William Street, excuse me, Unit A in Huntsville, P1H 1G3. And I'd like to begin by thanking you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee for accommodating our requested adjustment to the agenda. Greatly appreciated. We are appearing today on behalf of our clients, Mr. and Mrs. Yule, who have applied for an amendment to the comprehensive zoning bylaw, principally to permit a minor addition to their cottage in the form of a kitchen addition and to permit the construction of a replacement 2-story garage and a reconstruction of their roof on the cottage. The property that's subject to the application is generally located on the south shore of Lake Muskoka at 1085 Bradley Road, with access derived from a connected private right-of-way. Planning staff have outlined in their report the purpose of this current application being to seek approval for rezoning to recognize a set of variations from the applicable site regulations in respect of setbacks, building height, lot coverage, and in respect of a sun deck. As an existing undersized lot, the proposed changes to the cottage and the garage building are of necessity quite modest, but nevertheless needed given the age of the structures on the property and required improvements that have become needed over the years. The approval of the application will ultimately permit the replacement of the cottage roof with an increased slope to address potential snow load, something that we've all worried about this year, the removal of an aged garage and its replacement with a relocated 2-story garage on a reduced footprint, but within the boundaries of the property. As noted by Caitlin, excuse me, in July, the application was first considered by the committee, and at that time it was tabled to afford our clients an opportunity to respond to issues that had been identified by staff, committee, and expressed at the public meeting. In the interval, the proposed development, as outlined, has undergone changes principally to the proposed height of the cottage that is associated with the planned roof replacement. Excuse me. The size and height of the location of the replacement garage has also been addressed. The planning merits associated with these applications have been outlined both in the staff's report, our planning justification report, and our addendum report. And the staff have recommended approval of the application subject to the preparation of a site plan and a site plan agreement with which we agree. In conclusion, we're requesting the committee support this revised application for rezoning subject to the conditions as have been recommended by staff. And in closing, I would thank committee members and their staff for their consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe Mr. Yule would like to speak as well.
So I'm Steve. Good morning. I'm Mr. Yule. I purchased 1085 Bradley Road 2019 from Mr. Bradley. And him and his family lived on this property well over 80 years. The thing is, when I purchased the property, I knew it was a legal non-conforming property. I also knew that this property would require a lot of restoration. And I can appreciate the committee's concern on how we get that done, because we're working close to the waterfront. But I can assure you that I've taken a lot of steps to do it right. I've been myself in the building industry for over 50 years. Some of the information that was put forth at the last meeting, I knew that Ms. Walker and the PM planner would have to get more information to actually present it to you in the right way. And what I mean by that is that I've done every project that I've ever built with a permit, including this one. That package that I submitted was even packed with a lot more information. The land survey, because I knew it was off. I also provided an engineer report based on the structure. The foundations were significantly falling apart. I brought my engineer today with me if we need to get into that. But the importance is that without a good foundation, you don't have a good building. And under today's present building codes, you need to upgrade the insulation in the walls and the roof. And the roof is strictly allows me to upgrade my insulation, put it in a better slope condition to handle additional snow loads. It is failing dramatically through the roof system. I would like to get a little extra space for the kitchen out of this. I worked closely with Mrs. Walker to make certain adjustments to it, because one thing you have to appreciate here is that Mr. Bradley owned a significant piece of land where he was able to build these structures, but he sold it to my neighbors. So he reduced his land, but the structures stayed the same. So if you're looking to see why it was illegal non-conforming, that's the reason. And it was allowed to be done. I feel I should have the right to put this structure back in good merit. And that's what I'm asking for today, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yule. Would you like Mr. Dahl to speak?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Dahl is a registered
Yes.
speaker.
I'd appreciate that. You would weigh in.
Mr. Dahl, would you like to come up? Good morning. If you could give us your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay, great. My name's Steve Dahl. I'm Dahl Group Engineering at 35 Cedar Point Drive in Barrie. I'll keep this brief. It was not necessarily my intention to present per se, but I have been working with Mr. Yule for it's been about 4 years now on this property, and so I wanted to be available should it be necessary to comment on any of the technical sides of the property. The project, since I became involved, has been purely a project of restoring a building that was dilapidated, and then as the project progressed, we discovered more and more damages. Yeah, so I guess I'll leave it there, and then yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you very much. And of course, you're available for questions.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. All right, committee. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Through to Ms. Walker. We heard from the delegates that they had building permits. And we heard that the property became non-conforming due to the sale of property. Can you explain to me that second part? So if you subdivide your property, how does it make it, okay, it would be non-conforming, but be acceptable, wouldn't it? Thank you.
Ms. Walker?
Through you, to Councillor Roberts, I don't believe that wasn't quite the understanding I got for the applicant. I think his intent, and he can speak to this if I'm incorrect, was he was aware that there was legal non-complying aspects to this property when he purchased it. They would have been legal non-complying prior to his purchase and after his purchase. I hope that provides some clarity.
Thank you. So just thinking about yesterday, so this was assumed this was caused by the previous owner doing constructions without the benefit of a building permit. Is that correct?
Ms. Walker?
Through you, based on our records, there was building permits for all the structures on the property when Mr. Yule purchased it, with the exception of those that were constructed prior to when building permits were required for buildings. So there's a bit of a caveat to that. So based on MPAC records, the dwelling and garage were constructed around 1952. At that time, building permits were not required. There was some following permits in the 80s for the dock and the boathouse that exist on the property. There was also a dock addition in 2011 that had the benefit of a building permit. And in 2018, a new septic was installed on the property. And then in 2022, there was a building permit to repair and replace the foundation of the dwelling and the attached sun deck. That's where, up until that point, everything would have been considered from our perspective legal non-complying on the property. So it doesn't comply with our current standards, but because of when it was developed, it was legal on the property. Most specifically, noting the lot coverage on the property exceeds 17%. That's just the historical development that's taken place on this lot. However, there was a sun deck on the property when the permit was issued in 2022 to replace that sun deck. The original sun deck was half permeable, half impermeable. And when it got reconstructed, it got expanded slightly and the entire sun deck was replaced with impermeable materials, meaning no water was able to get through it. And when there's a sun deck that's impermeable and you can't have water running through the sun deck, it's considered a roof structure and contributes to your lot coverage. So that bumped them up to having a lot coverage beyond what was legal non-complying on the property. I hope that helps provide some clarity.
Thank you. It did. Thank you very much.
Committee, do we have any other questions before I read the resolution? Councillor Nishikawa and then Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. Through you to Ms. Walker. The concern for the garage is, again, lot coverage. And also I'm wondering, we're calling it a loft, but is this an application for a bunkie?
Ms. Walker, I believe the application is for storage above.
Through you, my understanding, and I mean the owner's here if he wants to clarify, my understanding is it's storage on the upper story of the garage. I would just clarify too, through the application, the owners are proposing to reconfigure the legal non-complying lot coverage on the property, so it won't be increasing beyond what was originally recognized as the legal non-complying lot coverage. So the change in the garage from the original proposal that you saw in July to now is they are reducing the footprint slightly to make up for some of the other impermeable surfaces on the property. And they've also proposed to reduce the height slightly of the garage. And we've recommended a revision to the bylaw to restrict the height of that garage to the 20.5 feet that they're proposing, as opposed to 25 feet that would be permitted in our bylaw today.
Councillor Edwards.
Yes, through you, Chair, to Ms. Walker. I noticed on page 489, it says reduction of the proposed lot coverage from 17.6% to 17.4%. And yet in the bylaw on page 519, it still says 17.6. Which is the correct number, please?
It
Ms.
through
Walker?
you, it'll be 17.04. The bylaw needs to be revised based off of committee's decision today.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Committee, any other questions? Very well, let me read the resolution. Moved by Mayor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved, the zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 50/24 amended be approved, subject to the following revisions to the draft bylaw. That the draft bylaw in Schedule 2 be revised to reflect the amended proposal. That Schedule 2 be revised to specify that the covered porch addition will be unenclosed. That the height of the proposed garage be restricted to 20.7 feet as proposed. That the height illustration of the dwelling form schedule to the bylaw, and that the proposed developments be made subject to site plan control. Committee, do we have any discussion on this? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. That carries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Greatly appreciated.
Okay. Our next item is Mr. Mello is going to bring us a report on concurrent zoning bylaw and amendment and consent application. This is B15/16/24 ML and the ZBA is 13/25.
Thank you, Chair Bosworth. The next applications to be heard are concurrent consent application B15/16/25 ML and zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 13/25 in the names of MIRABELLI and King. Subject lands do not have a municipally assigned address. Next slide, please. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent and zoning sketch on page 32 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of these applications is to create two new lots, severed lot A and severed lot B, fronting Falconberg Road. The applications will also permit a lot frontage of 435 feet for the severed and retained lots, where 600 feet is the minimum requirement in the zoning bylaw for the RU1 zone, and where 443 feet is the minimum requirement for lots fronting onto a Class B district road. The application will also permit an exemption from rural lot creation requirements in the township zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. The proposed exemptions are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Next slide, please. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 27 days in advance of this meeting, and 5 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, Paul Lydan, the township's fire prevention officer, Matt Irving, the township's septic inspector, and Matt Beach, development and transportation engineering coordinator, all stating no objections to the application. Comments were received from Sarah Campbell, planner for the district municipality of Muskoka, stating no objection to the application, in addition to a number of recommended conditions, and that the recommendations of the scoped EIS and the wildland fire risk assessments be implemented to the satisfaction of the township. Next slide, please. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the consent and zoning bylaw amendment applications be approved, subject to the recommended conditions of consent and revisions to the draft bylaw, which are detailed in the staff report. I have no further comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fawner.
Is that on? Oh, yeah.
It is now. Good morning, Mr. Fawner. Welcome, and you
Good morning.
as you well know, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm kind of saddled with a bit of a bad cold, but anyways, Steve Fawner, Northern Vision Planning Limited, 109 Meadow Heights Drive, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L 184. I'm here representing Pasquale Mirabelli, as well as Linda King, who are the owners of the subject property. And they're both present here today. And I have my usual PowerPoint presentation. I'd like to thank staff for a positive report. I know that we're sort of pushing the limits a little bit with frontage on this one, and knew that it wasn't going to be an easy one, but quite happy that staff saw the way clear to recommend approval. Next. These are just the lot sizes, and I think that's in the notice if everybody's read that. So they're quite large properties area-wise. This is an updated plan because this incorporates a couple of wetland areas in the northern portion of the property and appropriate setbacks to that. So they've been taken out of any building envelope as required. Just wanted to point out here that the lots on the north side of the road, you can see immediately to the north, there are 2 lots that actually have less frontage than these proposed lots, and then one with greater. So I think the main point to be made is that there be 3 lot frontages on the south side, just as there is on the north side. Next. And this is just a bit of a close-up. Wanted to point out too that basically the pretty much almost the southern half of the retained lot is not going to be touched at all or developed. Next. And this is just the road, Falkenberg Road, with severed lot A on the left-hand side. Next. And this is that small wetland area that's in the northeast corner of proposed severed lot A as seen from the road. Next. And this is going into the property near the west lot line, and that building behind, that's the neighbor's property. Next. And walking further back in, you can see that it's relatively dry in this location. Next. And here it's very dry, and you can actually see a little bit of the wetland area in the left portion there. Next. As you go further, you actually cross a little bit of a small drainage swale and then back into this, and it's very well drained. So there's lots of building sites on severed lot A. Next. And this is the road frontage for the other severed lot, which is in the northeast corner of the property. Next. And this is just looking in from the road. Next. And this is within that property. And again, it's high and dry, lots of building locations in there. And that was confirmed by Beacon Environmental as well. Next. And there's a bit of red pine plantation. Next. And this is the entrance to the retained lot. Next. And this is the frontage of the retained lot. Next. And there was an old laneway, a very old laneway back into the property, the severed. Next. And this is a portion of that property as well. So very well drained and lots of building sites. Next. So the PPS does allow for limited lot creation on rural lands, and these proposed lots are compatible with those in the area. Next. And we certainly meet the criteria for lot creation in the district OP as well as their lot size. Falkenberg Road is a Class B road. Next. The old township official plan, I guess, is one thing. It creates larger lots, no limits to 1 new lot per land holding, but that is proposed to be changed in the new official plan. The updated official plan, the one thing I wanted to point out is that states that lots should be that size, so there's some discretion and leeway with that particular lot frontage. It's not a shall situation, and there's no limitation on the number of lots now. Next. And there was an EIS done by Beacon Environmental as well as a wildland fire risk assessment. So, and they've found that there's no higher extreme areas of wildfire risk. Next. And comprehensive bylaw doesn't reflect the new policy, so that creates some additional exemptions. I was a little shocked when I saw the notice that how many exemptions there were, and I thought, boy, we're bad people here. But interesting to note that the draft bylaw, though, has pared those numbers of exemptions down. And if the bylaw had been updated to incorporate the new items in the rural bylaw, we'd be down to only 2 exemptions, in my opinion. And the interesting thing with this, the one thing I learned is not
Coming
every
up on
lot
5
is the
minutes,
same.
Mr.
Okay.
Khan.
This lot is only 1,305 feet instead of the normal 1,320. So next. This just shows the lots in the area, variable sizes. Next. And I won't get into the housing matters next. And I think I'll just conclude that in my opinion, it is supported by the local official plan documents as well as the PPS. And I'm here to answer any questions. Okay.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody who would like to speak in favor of this application? Nobody online? Is there anybody online at all? All right, so is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Committee, over to you. Do we have questions of planner, the applicants? Ooh. All right, so the time we save by not having any questions is going to be taken up by the time it takes to read the resolution. Here we go. Moved by Councillor Burry, seconded by Councillor McIntyre. Be it resolved that consent application B15/16/25 ML be approved subject to the following conditions. That the certificate of consent under section 53(42) of the Planning Act, along with the transfer and preparation, be prepared by a solicitor and shall be given to the Secretary Treasurer within 2 years from the date the notice of the decision was given. The one hard copy and a digital copy of the registered reference plan of the severed lands prepared by an Ontario land surveyor be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, which corresponds with the application as submitted. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to the registration on title. The confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained lot and the severed lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, and that any problems identified with an existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. The cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lots or the entire lands, whichever is less. That the retained lots and the severed lots be subject to site plan control. That a satisfactory consent agreement under section 51(26) of the Planning Act be entered into with the township and registered on title of the lands and contains provisions to the satisfaction of the township whereby the owner agrees to implement the recommendations of the scoped environmental impact study prepared by Beacon Environmental, dated January the 14th, 2026, and references the recommendations of the wild land fire risk assessment prepared by Beacon Environmental, dated November the 11th, 2025. That a conditional permit be obtained from the District of Muskoka for the proposed severed and retained lots for access to the district road. That the lands be subject to an agreement with the District Municipality of Muskoka pursuant to section 51(26) of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended, respecting the location of wells in relations to the district road, and that a 3-meter road widening across the entire frontage of the lands be dedicated to the District Municipality of Muskoka for road widening purposes. Committee, do we have any discussions on that resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And the second part, moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 13/25 be approved subject to the following revisions to the draft bylaw. That a provision be made to the draft bylaw to rezone the wetlands and their respective buffers and any remaining lands zoned rural Area 3 RU1 on the retained lot associated with the Coldwater Stream and the respective buffer from rural RU1 to environmental protection EPA 1 as outlined in figure 4 of the scoped environmental impact study prepared by Beacon Environmental, dated January the 14th, 2026, and that's scheduled to be revised as required. Discussion committee? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carries. Okay, thank you very much for that. Next item. Next item is Ms. DeMello again. And this is zoning bylaw B3435/25 ML and ZBA 2125 PATTMAN.
Thank you, Chair Bosworth. The next applications to be heard are concurrent consent application B343525 ML and zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 2125 in the name of PATTMAN. The subject lands are municipally known as 1475 South Monck Drive. Next slide, please. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent and zoning sketch on page 173 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of these applications is to create 2 new lots fronting onto South Monck Drive. A concurrent zoning bylaw amendment application has been submitted to permit an exemption from the minimum lot area requirement as stipulated in site-specific bylaw 2018-53, being 96 acres. The retained lot is proposed to be 8.9 acres in size. Severed lot 1 is proposed to be 44.7 acres in size, and severed lot 2 is proposed to be 44.7 acres in size. Next slide, please. The proposed exemptions are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Next slide, please. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 29 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 comments have been received to date. Comments from operational services indicate no objection and state that South Monck Drive appears to not be centered within the road allowance. As a condition of approval, operational services recommends conveyance of property 33 feet from the center line of the existing road to the satisfaction of operational services. It is also recommended that severance approval be subject to confirmation by the Operational Services Department of the availability of an entrance permit for these severed lots. Comments from Legislative Services, Emergency Services, the Township Septic Inspector, and the Development Services Division indicate no objection. Comments from Sarah Campbell, planner at the District Municipality of Muskoka, indicate no objection. And comments from Bell Canada also indicate no objection. Next slide, please. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommend that the consent and zoning amendment applications be approved subject to the recommended conditions of consent and revisions to the draft bylaw, which are detailed in the staff report. I have no further comments at this time, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sherbak.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of committee staff. I'm Stefan Sherbak with Plantscape Inc., 104 Kimberley Avenue in Bracebridge, representing the owner, which I believe they're monitoring the meeting online. If there's any questions that I can't answer, I should be able to get you some answers. Plantscape was involved with the initial severances and have worked with the applicant for the better part of 10 years or so. The subject severances, the 2 severances are described by staff, correctly described by staff, as essentially separating the waterfront parcel from the rural lands to the rear. Recognizing the constraints of South Monck Road being a municipally owned and not year-round maintained road, the application is simply looking to separate the rural designation from the rural for the permitted uses for a hunt camp use. A hunt camp is permitted today, and it will. They're looking to do the exact same use with the proposed severed lot in front of you. The severances follow the rural policies within the PPS. It fully conforms to the township and district official plans, specifically the new official plan policies. The severances also follow those policies. The retained waterfront exceeds the minimum requirements for creating lots on a small inland lake. Its existing frontage, there's nothing is being touched with the waterfront parcel. They're just, again, separating the back rural lots from this waterfront lot. Again, the waterfront parcel is large, in excess of 600 feet, 8 acres, so it's a fairly sizable lot. The previous severances were supported by an ecological review, and the same ecologist submitted a brief opinion, which was submitted with the application. There's no additional study work that was required. There's a few recommendations that were to be implemented, and those are rightfully incorporated into the conditions in front of you. The set of conditions for approval are reasonable. They're appropriate. The owner has no issues with those conditions in the draft resolution. And then finally, just to step into the supplementary zoning application, the main reason for this request is to reflect the intended proposal, limiting the uses, which is something that staff are doing with these rural type uses, so that if it is going to be a hunt camp, it's only that. The owner has no issue with that whatsoever. And extending the southerly lot line, again, to separate any development from that waterfront parcel, again, is very reasonable, and the owner is supportive of that. The planning justification in front of you mimic staff's policy reviews. The application are generally, we share staff's recommendations and opinions, the zoning, and in conclusion, the zoning bylaw and severances generally follow the intent and purpose of the provincial planning statement, the district official plan, as well as the new rural and the old waterfront, which are currently under appeal. We would respectfully request committee's recommendation of approval for these applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anybody online at all? Nobody online? Very well. Committee, do we have any questions? Anybody opposed? No, there's nobody online. That was the question.
No, but I didn't.
Yeah. All right, committee, do we have questions to the Ms. DeMello or the applicant? Here we go again. Moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Mazin. Be it resolved that consent application B 3435/25 be approved subject to the following conditions. That the certificate of consent under section 53(42) of the Planning Act, along with the transfer and preparation, be prepared by a solicitor and shall be given to the Secretary Treasurer within 2 years from the date of the notice of the decision was given. The one hard copy and a digital copy of a satisfactory register reference plan of the severed lands prepared by an Ontario Land Survey be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, which corresponds with the application as submitted. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to the registration on title. The confirmation be received that the township is satisfied that the retained and severed lots are satisfactory for on-site sewage disposal, and that any problems identified with any existing sewage system be corrected to the satisfaction of the township. That a satisfactory consent application under section 51(26) of the Planning Act be entered into the town, into with the township and registered on title of the lands, and contains provisions to the satisfaction of the township whereby the owner agrees to implement the recommendations of the opinion letter by Beacon Environmental dated November the 11th, 2025, and wherein the owner agrees to the following. The owner agrees that as the property is not zoned to permit residential uses or a dwelling, that any hunt camp on the severed lots not be occupied for more than 14 days in any month and more than 60 days in any 12-month period, and agrees to use said hunt camp solely for the purposes of accommodating hunters and not as a dwelling unit. B, the owner acknowledges that the availability of the emergency services may be limited and or unavailable due to seasonally maintained road access. And C, the owner acknowledges that the application the applicable provisions of the dark sky bylaw to apply to the subject land. Number 5, that an amending site plan agreement be entered into for the retained lot to implement the provisions outlined in sections L 6.6.2E IV of the township's official plan, that an entrance permit be issued by the township's public works department for the severed lots if required, the cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lots or the entire lands, whichever is less, and that a road widening across the portions of the severed lots fronting onto South Monck Drive be dedicated to the township to the satisfaction of the township's operational services department. Committee, any debate? All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. In the second half. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 21/25 be approved subject to the following revisions to the draft bylaw. That an agricultural use, forestry operation, and a wayside pit or quarry use to be removed as permitted uses on the severed lands, and that a minimum of 100-foot setback be required for future development from the southerly side lot line on severed lot 2. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. I wasn't fast enough the last time. And that just for my information, what is the minimum size lot that you can have for a hunt camp? Realizing how far a bullet can go. That's just for my own information. Can staff answer that?
Mr. Mello?
Through the chair, there's no minimum required lot area or frontage requirement in the OS2 zone, which permits a hunt camp use. And I don't believe there's another provision in the zoning bylaw that states that a minimum lot area or frontage is required.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ms. Crowder.
Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair, for indulging me. Just to add to Ms. DeMello's answer, the restriction would really be related to the required setbacks in the OS2 zone and the required or maximum size of a hunt camp. And I would I know we've talked about this in the past, but reiterate that hunting is not only permitted on OS2 zoned lands, hunting is permitted across the township. Thank you.
Councillor Nishikawa.
Oh, I'm already up, sorry. Through you, I would like this to be flagged as to a further conversation. And I will just use my own personal experience that I have young men now letting off their guns often, and they do have that ability. But it's awfully close when we can't go to our property line. And we only find out because blasting is happening away. And so I think that that's an issue that we should be looking at, because in fact, if we're creating these size properties, it's the impression I am getting, and I would suspect others would get as well, is that the hunting is only staying within these perimeters. And quite honestly, they're too small. So I don't think that we can deal with it today, but I certainly think that we should be dealing with it when we look at our bylaws in the future.
Thank you for that. Any more further discussion or comments? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. All right, the next is ZBA 31/25 Dyer on 1011 Morris Road, and that is Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Bosenworth. The next application to be heard is zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 31/25 in the name of Dyer. Next slide, please. The subject lands are known municipally as 1011 Morris Road, Unit 5. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 213 of the agenda package. Next slide, please. The purpose and effect of the application is to permit the construction of a dock addition and a boat port that will exceed the maximum cumulative width provisions in the township's zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 30 days in advance of this meeting, and 5 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Matt Beach, the Township's Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator, Paul Lydon, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, Chriselle Story, the Township's Land and Agreements Coordinator, and Sarah Campbell, Planner for the District of Muskoka. These comments were all circulated to committee prior to today's meeting, and no concerns were raised. Next slide, please. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. Staff have recommended that the application be approved, and I have no other comments, but I'm happy to assist with questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe the applicant's agent is Mr. Matchett. And is he online?
Yes, I am.
Good morning, Mr. Matchett. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Brian Matchett. I'm with Matchett Design and Consulting. I've been retained by the owners, Sarah and Corey Dyer, for their property at 1011 Beaumaris Road, Unit 5.
Mr. Matchett, could you give us your address? And
Yes.
You have 5 minutes.
Yes, I'm located at 1678 Beatrice Town Line, Bracebridge, Ontario, postal code P1L 1X4. Yes, so this property is located at 1011 Beaumaris Road, Unit 5. As noted in the presentation, we are looking for relief for maximum cumulative dock width and maximum cumulative boathouse width as part of this application. As part of this application, it was important to the owner to maintain and respect the current zoning bylaw. So projection out into the water, building height, coverage, vegetation along the shoreline. We request no relief there. We did engage neighboring owners to the east, who's will primarily have impact to seeing this application if successfully proceeding. And there was no objection through email to this property. And I just want to note that we have maintained the setback from the projection out into the waterway for that owner as part of this application. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Please come on up. You could give us your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Good morning. My name is George Edwards. I'm at 1011 Unit 1, Beaumaris Road, Milford Bay, POB 1EO. My wife Penny and I are neighbors of the Dyers, and we've owned our property since 1996 as cottagers and permanent residents since 2013. Over the years, we've seen council allow amendments to the bylaws to approve structures that exceed the limits set out by the current regulations. And I'm here today to express my strong opposition to this proposal for 3 important reasons. Number 1, the bay is already extremely congested with docks, boat ports, and boat houses, several of which are legal non-conforming and are much larger than what the current bylaws permit. These are the same zoning bylaws that are designed to protect property owners and, more importantly, to protect the natural beauty of our lakes from overdevelopment. Number 2, granting this application will set a dangerous precedent for other property owners who also wish to build and expand on the waterfront. I understand that this request might be considered minor on waterfront that has thousands of feet of straight shoreline. However, it should not be considered minor in a tight, constricted, and already overdeveloped bay like ours. At some point, granting exceptions to the zoning bylaws needs to stop in order to preserve what's left of what was once a quiet, beautiful, and natural bay on Lake Muskoka. And finally, the township bylaws are there for a reason, and they are reasonable and appropriate. They have been designed to limit impact on fish habitat, as well as aquatic and shoreline vegetation. Every time development is permitted beyond the intended limits, it only serves to jeopardize the lands, waters, and natural resources that our bylaws are meant to protect. So based on these concerns, I would like to request that council deny this zoning bylaw amendment application and uphold the maximum cumulative width provisions. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Do we have any others wishing to speak in opposition to this application? No. Committee, do we have questions of the planners or the applicant? Councillor Edwards.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to state I'm not related to Mr. Edwards, just so that you know. But I'm just looking at page 213. And I see 8'11" on the one side of the boat port and 6 foot on the other. If they were 8'8" and 4 foot, that would bring it down. They could still get to their boat and they wouldn't need the extra 4 feet of dock width. Can somebody answer that, please?
Ms. Walker, can you comment on that?
Through you, I think I'll look to the applicant's agent to comment on if the design of the boat port and dock could be modified to reduce the width.
Mr. Matchett, there's been a suggestion that things could be narrowed down and brought into compliance.
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so that is a possibility to reduce the width of the new proposed dock to the east of the boat slip. The 6 foot was designed based on, having 3 feet or 2'6" to the interior to assist in mooring the boat, etc. And then having safe space on the outside as well to get by columns, etc., supporting the boathouse structure. But there are avenues that I can discuss with my client to reduce that if it appeases committee.
If you just clarify how much would be on the outside of the.
Yeah, I wouldn't professionally, I wouldn't reduce it to more than 4 feet, and that would allow 2 feet to the inside and 2 feet to the outside, not considering the column sizes.
I see. Okay. Committee, any other questions? Comments? All right. Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Kent.
Thank you. Could I just hear from staff, please, on the logic of approving a boat port that's 9 feet over relief? Why are we giving this? I don't really understand the thoughts there. And I couldn't find anything that was clearly outlined in the report. We had a discussion about a boat port last meeting, I believe, not this month, and we turned it down.
Ms. Walker.
Through you, when staff considers cumulative width, especially for boathouses on a property, we consider if we feel it'll have a impact on the overall built form of the property. So in this case, a boat port does have a lesser impact because it's only permitted to have a single wall as opposed to a boathouse. So in that respect, staff was comfortable that the proposed boat port wouldn't have a large impact on the built form of the property. Further, staff have recommended that the proposed development be made subject to site plan control, which will allow for some additional plantings in the front yard, which will help screen any land-based built form in the gaps that do exist in the shoreline buffer, which will be an overall improvement on the property.
Can I just follow up?
Yes, Councillor Kent.
I guess my question is, you're saying, well, we can do it with a boat port. It's not as bad as a boathouse, and we can put plantings in. But why are we saying that we should be allowed to do it at all when it's against the bylaws? Like it's like the lesser of two evils. And unless I'm missing something, I still don't understand on that one. The 4 feet I'm not as concerned about. The 9 feet I am concerned about.
Ms. Walker.
I think the applicants have the ability to come forward with any proposal they would like. In this case, the 9 feet, while numerically, I understand there could be concerns with when staff reviewed what the overall impact would be on the property. It was our opinion that it was in keeping with the policies of the official plan. It won't comply, obviously, with the zoning bylaw, but it does, in our opinion, conform with the official plan policies.
Committee, Councillor Burry.
Thank you, and through you, question to staff. I hear a lot of talk about this property, this property, this property. We've just heard from a resident in the bay that says that the cumulative impact on the bay may be impacted. And I'm wondering if staff take that into account.
Ms. Walker.
We do look at the overall impact to the surrounding properties. In this case, it was my opinion that the proposed development was in character with the existing development in this bay. Staff could go away and work with the applicant in this case to see if reductions could be made if there was concerns by committee. But overall, it was our feeling that the addition of this boat port with the additional 9 feet wouldn't have a large impact on the character of the bay.
Committee, any other questions? Councillor Mazin.
Thank you, and through you. I think I just want to pick up on Councillor Kent's question, just for clarification. Take the width out of the equation. Would a boat port be permitted on this property?
Ms. Walker?
Through you, yes, a boat port would be permitted on the property. However, I don't think they'd be able to design a boat port with their existing single-story boathouse that would comply with cumulative dock or boat house width provisions.
Okay, but a boat port would be a permitted structure.
That's correct. It's a permitted structure on the property. It's considered the same as a single-story boathouse. So the property's permitted the boat port. It's just the width. That's the concern.
Thank you.
Committee, let me read the resolution so we can further discuss this. Moved by Mayor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 31/25 Dyer be approved and that the proposed development be made subject to site plan control. All right. Mayor Kelly, then Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you, and through you. One of the things that occurs to me in this specific case is I heard Mr. Matchett suggest that there may be a possibility of redesign to bring the thing either into compliance or closer to compliance. And I certainly would approve of some sort of deferral while that gets examined and considered. As we heard from the other Mr. Edwards, the structures along the waterfront impact more than just the person who owns them. They impact a lot of neighbors, and in a tight bay, they impact people probably in a 360-degree loop around the neighborhood. And any offer from Mr. Matchett to consider a possibility of shrinkage, bringing it down somewhat, I think would be a responsible way to address it.
Councillor Nishikawa and then Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. I first of all found the lot cluttered, as in we would expect the built forms to not be dominating the lot. But with all the, I think 5 or 6 buildings, whether it's a shed or not, but essentially we've missed the mark on capturing the essence of basically, the view from the shore. Where's the trees? Where's the, there just doesn't seem to be, there's too much development, honestly, if the boat port was to go ahead. I can't accept this as it's been presented today, and I'm not even clear what other changes. I have a couple of concerns as well that we haven't managed in the past because others just do what they do, of that boat being filled in. And that really concerns me as well. I wouldn't be approving it today. Thank you.
Yeah, I remind committee that we are assessing the application as it's stated, not as what might be in the future. Councillor Edwards.
I would agree with the mayor. I think it should be deferred. They can find another way. I don't know why they can't put the boat port on the existing. Well, now you've got two buildings there compared to one large one. So I would like to see that and that looked into, but I would like it deferred. Thank you.
Councillor Roberts, did you have your hand up?
No.
Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. It was more of a question, and when we passed the allowing of the boathouses, and I think it was a few mayors ago, but it was exactly as Alan had described, that we allow a boat port, but not a whole separate structure. And it was about that additional side of a boathouse. That was our drawings that were presented to us, and not these separate things. So if there's some changes, I would like to see those brought forward of how our interpretation is of the bylaws that were put in place probably 2014 or something.
Councillor Kent.
Thank you. Just to support Councillor Nishikawa, I cannot approve this application in its current form. I think that reducing the size of the boat port isn't going to change my opinion, because I don't think it should be there at all. And at a minimum, we should defer it and they can come back. But in my opinion, we should not be approving additional boat width, dock width that's in excess of the allocated amount by any significant magnitude in a tight bay when it's against the bylaws. It's as simple as that. And there's a lot of construction on this property. As she pointed out, there are 6 separate buildings. And given the other conversations we've had over the last 2 meetings and even yesterday, I don't know why we would ever be approving this kind of an application. Anyway, for me, I cannot support it today. Perhaps if they come back in a different form, I might think about it.
I get the sense there's members of the committee who would like a deferral. Would a member like to propose a resolution? Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Burry. We'll pause for a minute while we get that resolution written up. Thank you. The recommended resolution is moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Burry. Be it resolved that the resolution be deferred in order for the applicant to reconsider and resubmit the design of the boat port. Do we have any discussions on that? Councillor Roberts.
When I read this, I had concerns with the 2 structures on the waterfront on a property, and I guess I got a question for staff. Have we seen this before?
Ms. Walker?
Through you, I'd say the majority of properties do max out their cumulative width with a single boathouse and dock. However, it's not uncommon at the same time to have multiple shoreline structures on a property.
Councillor Roberts?
Save me going back. So thank you, Chair. Save me going through. What's the total length of the shoreline? Is it?
Ms. Walker?
Through you. I'm hearing 263, which sounds right. 263.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this? Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. Just for pickiness, I guess, but more importantly, I would suggest that the drawings and the stuff that is submitted would get the correct address, like the spelling of the road.
Is the spelling of the road not correct? Can you work that out with Ms. Walker then? Councillor Mazin.
Thank you, and through you. And I think sometimes just helpful for an applicant to understand the purpose of the deferral. So, you know, the reason I asked about the boat port, it would seem a boat port would be permitted, even though it's only at 263 feet. It is a permitted structure from what I understand. But what isn't sitting well with me is the maximum overage on the waterfront of the docks and the cumulative impact, as noted by some of my peers, of the whole thing. So I think just as they go back and revisit what they're trying to contemplate, it's understanding that and understanding the sensitivity from the view of the canoe, and just the size and the scale on, quite frankly, an undersized footage. They've already got a boathouse on a lot that's under 300 feet already. So I think understanding that becomes helpful for them as they contemplate their future plans.
Okay, thank you. All right, let me call the question. All those in favor? For deferral, yes. Okay. And now,
You need a vote on the main motion as amended.
so all those in favor of the main resolution as amended?
So we amended it to deferral.
Correct. Everybody clear on that? All those in favor? All right, that carries. Thank you.
I get it.
Folks, I think we're going to take a break now and come back at 10:25.
So that's a 20-minute breaks. Well, that was 18. You have to be precise.
I did that because I expect the next one's going to be fairly controversial.
Thank you.
I mean,
I don't.
This year, did you notice that the rolls up? Oh, well, I thought that was.
Sorry, what was that, Peter? What was that?
Oh. Mr. Matchett. Oh, yeah. Why did we take him?
Yeah.
This lines will kill.
One I'm looking forward to is Mr. Forskew.
page 237 of the agenda package. The subject lands are currently being developed with a dwelling, garage, septic system, dock, and a boathouse. The purpose and effect of the application is to recognize an as-built dock addition. Next slide, please. The requested exemptions are summarized as shown on the screen and include an exemption from the maximum cumulative dock width and maximum cumulative shoreline structure width. This table was included in the circulation materials and provided in the agenda package. Next slide, please. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 28 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Matt Veach, the Township's Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator, and Chriselle Story, the Township's Land and Agreements Coordinator, stating no objection to the application. Comments were received from Paul Lydon, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, stating that the fire department identified fire and life safety considerations associated with emergency access, aviation fuel hazards, and the proposed structure over water. Fire noted that firefighting and emergency response capabilities at the dock are limited and would rely on portable equipment only, and advised that the structure must not impede emergency access or egress. Fire comments are advisory and provided for consideration as part of the site plan review. Comments were received from Sarah Campbell, planner for the District Municipality of Muskoka, stating that staff would not be opposed to the application provided that the appropriate development control techniques are used to implement the recommendations of the environmental impact study completed by Riverstone Environmental Solutions, dated June 2025. Comments were also received from Steve Rowacek on behalf of the Muskoka Lakes Association, requesting that the application be deferred until such time as the applicant obtain the necessary federal government approvals under the Aeronautics Act for the intended use. It's my understanding that this letter was forwarded to committee prior to today's meeting, but if you'd like me to read it in full, I'd be happy to do so. Next slide, please. 75 feet of the existing dock was constructed under the issuance of a building permit. The additional 52 feet of dock width was conveyed to the building department as an aerodrome, exempt from municipal bylaws under the Aeronautics Act, which is how the building permit for the 75 feet of dock was finalized. However, an application has now been submitted to planning, which is the application before you today, to recognize this dock under the township's municipal bylaws. The applicant's agent has stated that the 52 feet of additional dock width is permitted as of right under the Aeronautics Act, provided it is solely used for the plane. The property owner would like to use this portion of the dock for boating, swimming, and recreation, as well as the aerodrome. Therefore, relief from the township zoning bylaw is required, and if approved, a building permit would be required as well. The applicant's agent further conveyed that under the Aeronautics Act, an individual can choose to register their aerodrome federally, which would result in it being made available to any planes in need of landing and/or fueling up. The applicant does not intend to register this aerodrome, which the agent has stated is not uncommon in the area, as most aerodromes are used for individual property owners and their pilots. The agent also confirmed that permits are not required to be issued under the Aeronautics Act. Next slide, please. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. Staff recommend that the application be approved, subject to withholding of third reading of the bylaw until such time as consent application B0625ML is finalized to the satisfaction of the township. I have no further comments at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Crowder. Mr. Allen, I believe you are the applicant's agents today. Good morning.
Yes,
Welcome.
I am. Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee. My name is Ryan Allen, registered professional planner with Allen Planning Consulting, 16 McNabb Street, Bracebridge, P1L1R4. I'm representing the property owner, Judd Haven Holdings, Inc., which is owned by Stephen Smith and Diane Blake, with their zoning bylaw amendment application. The site plan that's proposed is attached to today's agenda. As Ms. Crowder noted, the existing dock was constructed as a private aerodrome under the Aeronautics Act with the guidance of Coy Wolf Aviation, who are leading experts in aviation operations, regulations, and safety. Aerodromes are exempt from municipal bylaws, including zoning and building permit requirements, and there's no need to obtain any federal approvals or permits for private aerodromes. This zoning bylaw amendment application is not about permitting the dock to be used for aviation purposes. It is already permitted to be used for aviation purposes. The bylaw is about permitting part of the existing dock to be used for non-aviation purposes, such as swimming, boating, and recreational purposes, in addition to aviation purposes. Buildings that are not used exclusively for aviation purposes are not exempt from municipal bylaws under the Aeronautics Act. And the property owner would like to use the dock not exclusively for aviation purposes, which will eliminate the exemption under the Aeronautics Act from municipal bylaws, which will require compliance with the zoning bylaw, and a building permit will also be required. The existing dock exceeds the maximum 70 feet of dock width, 75 feet of dock width, and does not comply with the zoning bylaw. Therefore, using the dock for aviation purposes, in addition to swimming, docking, boating, and recreational purposes, is not permitted because it exceeds the maximum permitted width. The proposed bylaw will permit the additional 52 feet of existing dock width to be permitted and used in compliance with the zoning bylaw. A building permit will also be required. The township official plan allows for large lots with large frontages to have increased dock width, which Ms. Crowder's report and my planning report have both identified. There are many private aerodrome docks across the township that I'm sure you know are not used by other owners exclusively for aviation purposes, and those owners have not obtained the appropriate zoning approvals or building permits. However, my client would like to do the right thing, follow the rules, and obtain the necessary permits and planning approvals from the township before they start using the dock for non-aviation purposes. The additional dock width is parallel to the shoreline, less than the 66-foot maximum dock length, and does not extend past the compliant 75 feet of permitted dock width. This helps to limit the appearance of the added width that's being requested. The dock is located on a lot with a significant amount of frontage, almost a half a kilometer, for over 1,400 feet of frontage, and is greater which is greater than the bylaw frontage, which is over 600 feet of bylaw frontage. The total dock width, including the existing 75 feet of permitted dock, represents 9.1% of the actual frontage and 21% of the bylaw frontage, which is less than the 25% of shoreline structure width envisioned by the official plan. The configuration of the lot as a peninsula and a point of land creates a scenario where the dock is only visible from one side of the point, which also further helps to reduce visual impacts associated with the additional width. The dock is not located in significant fish habitat, is set back at least 120 meters from the closest fish habitat, and a consent agreement has already been approved on this property as part of the 2005 severance that created the lot, which implements the recommendations of the Riverstone EIS and addresses the district's comments. The additional built form associated with the proposed 52 feet of additional dock width does not dominate over the natural environment. No tree removal or site alteration was required, and no new construction is proposed. The proposed amendment, in my professional opinion, is consistent with excuse me, I'm getting a phone call. That's unfortunate. The proposed application is consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms with both the district and township official plans, and represents good planning. Stephen and Diane would be pleased for the committee to approve the application today as recommended in the staff report, and we expect or hope that the previously approved severance application to create the lot in 2025 will be finalized shortly before the next council meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ryan. Mr. Allen. That's all right. Do we have anybody wishing to speak for or against this application? Seeing none. All right. Committee. Councillor Roberts.
So a question? I just want to make sure I have an understanding. It is correct, is that it was first constructed for an aerodrome. and that would be compliant as an aerodrome.
Ms. Crowder.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Bosenworth, to Councillor Roberts. 75 feet of the existing dock has been applied for and approved by a building permit to be used as a normal dock under our zoning bylaw. However, 52 feet of the constructed dock is strictly for, or was built under the Aeronautics Act for aviation purposes and would be exempt from municipal bylaws and therefore permitted if it is solely used for those aeronautic uses. However, the property owner would like the flexibility to not solely use that portion of the dock for aviation purposes. They would like to be able to swim and dock their boats on that portion of the dock as well, hence the need for municipal relief from the zoning bylaw.
Okay, I'll save my other questions and comments for appropriate time.
Councillor Kent.
Thank you. I just had one quick question. When I look at the dock picture, it's in the materials, figure 2. Where do they intend to park the plane? It looks very, very shallow there. Is it in that little square cut that's out, or is it right on the outside of this dock? Because if they are just planning on putting it in the square cut, there appears to be like a very significant extra space that's being used for boating and docking, and that changes my perspective on this a bit.
Councillor Kent, page 237 has a picture, a sketch with the plane parked.
Page 237. Oh, sorry, I'm not in that. I'm in it as a separate document with the plane parked. Okay, I'll have to look for that.
Ms. Crowder, any comments?
For you, Chair, to Councillor Kent, it's also labeled as the zoning sketch if you're not in the agenda package.
Yep.
It shows the float plane parked on the outside, the northernmost portion of the dock. So not in that little cutout right at the shoreline.
Mr. Allen, can you talk about the water depth, which I think was in the report from the aeronautical consultant?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, as Mr. Crowder noted, that the proposed site plan does show the docking location for the proposed plane. There is very shallow water depths in that cutout that do not allow the plane to enter in that location. And the construction of the dock was reviewed and assessed by Coy Wolf Aviation. They were the ones that determined this proposed dock layout before it was constructed.
Thank you. Committee, do we have any other questions? Mayor Kelly.
Thank you, and excuse me, and through you, sorry about that. I will have a couple comments as well, but I realize this may not be the right venue to ask. I need to understand a little more about the Aeronautics Act. It seems to me that aerodromes are not a matter of right. You have to sort of make an application. There's a screening, and you have to get approved. They don't just hand it out at the window. And I'm just curious to know if anybody here would know whether what we're looking at would actually meet the requirements of the Aeronautics Act to be properly classified as an aerodrome.
Ms. Crowder, I'll let you start with that. And
For
then
you,
maybe
Chair,
Mr. Allen.
to Mayor Kelly, my personal knowledge of aerodromes starts with this application. So I will defer to the applicant's agent, but what I have reached out to Transport Canada, who is the approval authority or the authority that oversees the Aeronautics Act. And unfortunately, I haven't heard back. So I haven't been able to get my individual questions answered. However, the applicant's agent, I also asked some questions to, and they seem to have some information. So perhaps let's defer to them. Thank you.
Mr. Allen.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. In response to Mayor Kelly's question, there is no permit or approval for a private aerodrome issued by Transport Canada. The private aerodrome is established and used in accordance with the regulations of the Aeronautics Act, and the pilot that is using that aerodrome under their pilot's license and their obligations under the Aeronautics Act, have to be satisfied that that is a safe location to bring a plane to. So the Transport Canada is not directly involved. They set the regulations, and the people who are using the dock, i.e. the pilot, is responsible for ensuring safe operations. And I would qualify that I am not an aviation expert, which is why we've engaged Coy Wolf Aviation. If they were here and they had explained to me in the past, there is no requirement for Transport Canada certification, permits, or approvals. They're not possible to obtain. The only time that and it's not a permit or approval, you can have a registered aerodrome. It shows up on an aeronautics map, which is available to all pilots. So in the event of an emergency, low fuel situation, or mechanical problem, the plane and pilot knows where they could land the plane safely. This is not proposed to be registered aerodrome. This is proposed to be a sole use private aerodrome exclusively for the owner of the property. So there is no need to register it as a registered aerodrome. It will maintain as just a private aerodrome under the Act. I hope that answers the question.
Mr. Snyder.
Thank you. Through you. I can confirm Mr. Allen's comments. The building department in the past has investigated the Aeronautics Act and the requirements and any permitting processes at the federal level that would be required, and have determined, as Mr. Allen said, that there are no specific requirements for permit or approval. And I think I'll leave it there.
All right. Councillor Edwards.
I would like to know with the Aeronautics Act, why you need almost 29 feet from the side of the building to the wingtip. And that there must be some sort of a regulation. This seems extensive, and that if it's an aerodrome, then anyone can land at it. That might be different if it's private. It should be down to just a bare minimum so you can land. That's basically another 29 feet of dock that we're giving. If it's possible, I'd like to ask for a deferral on this to get the information. Thank you.
Mr. Allen, based on that diagram, it looks like the wingspan doesn't even cover half of the extension of the dock. So the question is, why is it so long, and could it be made shorter?
Thank you. It's a great question. Coy Wolf Aviation, through our direction, designed the dock as narrow as it could be. We have to have, I'm not familiar with all of the details in terms of building separation and obstacle avoidance under the Act, but I understand there are certain requirements to avoid buildings. There's a boathouse that's going to be constructed, a 2-story boathouse in that location, and sufficient separation for safety purposes is required for the wingtip of the airplane.
Committee, do we have any? Councillor Burry, question.
Thank you. And through you, I'm not sure who to ask the question, but why was this application not brought to us without the aviation piece? If the intent, you don't just suddenly decide, oh, I'm going to use that for swimming.
Ms. Walker?
So I'm kind of concerned on the timing of this. My sense of smell is not great, but I'm kind of interested on the timing on this.
Ms. Crowder, do you want to comment on that first?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Burry, I also see the agent has their hand raised, so I'll leave it to them about the timing. What I will say is that staff have evaluated this as if it's not an aerodrome. So we have evaluated this as if it is a dock that you would normally see used for swimming, berthing of boats, mooring, the purposes that are permitted under our zoning bylaw. The official plan 2013 has a policy in it, B13.4. Let me just open it up, sorry. B13.4E which states that there are exemptions to the maximum permitted cumulative shoreline structure width, which is typically 75 feet on lots that meet the frontage and are on category 1. And one of those exemptions is large residential properties with severance potential. That policy is carried forward into the 2023 official plan. However, the 2023 version of that policy has been appealed. So we defer to 2013. So staff have evaluated this without the aerodrome component, but I think your question is probably better directed to the agent regarding timing of this whole thing.
Mr. Allen.
Thank you. Through your chair and to Councillor Burry, it's a great question, and it's a question of timing and order of operation. We believed that it was more appropriate and optically better to proceed under the exemption of the Aeronautics Act, then request permission to use the dock in compliance with the bylaw, instead of proceeding with a request with the bylaw for the unbuilt dock, and if the application was denied, to just simply go ahead and construct the dock anyhow under the exemption of the Aeronautics Act. We know that a plane is going to be docking on this property. There is a need to have an aviation dock. So we decided that the best approach optically was to proceed to allow and to create the plane docking location, and then request that the dock be used for non-aviation purposes. We didn't want to be seen as, pulling a fast one on the committee and getting the zoning bylaw amendment denied and then building the dock anyhow under the exemption. I think that has a smellier test than proceeding under the permitted exemptions of the Federal Act and then asking for compliance with zoning through this amendment.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm kind of surprised at the explanation I just heard. So just correct me if I'm wrong.
We are in question period.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, definitely in question period.
All right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Allen. So you decided to build the aerodrome and the dock, and then after you started the construction, then asked for relief. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Allen?
That is correct.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, and through to committee. If this is quite a lengthy piece of property, and it would be permitted to have both these structures separately on that shoreline. Is that correct?
Ms. Crowder.
Through you, Chair Bosenworth, to Councillor Roberts. No, the docks exceed maximum cumulative width under our zoning bylaw. So whether these were separated structures, I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
They would still need relief from the zoning bylaw.
Thank you.
Ms. Crowder, I believe we've also put a condition about if the properties were ever severed, there's on some limitations about the total dock width on the two severed lots, or the severed lots, both lots. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair. There is no condition that we've imposed. You can't conditionalize a zoning bylaw amendment, but we have included in the staff report some wording that if an application were ever to come forward to sever these lands, that we as staff would be looking to restrict shoreline structure development on a newly created lot, because you've essentially you've already taken away the width permissions from that newly created lot through the permission of an over width dock today.
So it puts a marker on the property that says this needs to be considered if there was a severance application.
Through you, it leads a crumb trail for staff to look back at that previous approval, see this was the intent, this is what we noted. We would consider that anyway through our review of the policies, but policies do change over time, so it would be good to have that breadcrumb trail of in the previous staff report.
Mr. Snyder.
Thank you. And through you, if I can just add to Ms. Crowder's response to Councillor Roberts, that breaking down that question a little differently, yes, these two structures are permitted on the property, one being permitted under the township zoning bylaw and the other being permitted under the Aeronautics Act, which we have no authority of jurisdiction over. Their request to consider it both dock would bring it back into the realm of township approval for this. If not approved, the Aeronautics Act would still be applicable to the as constructed aerodrome. I'll not refer to it as a dock because at this point it is an aerodrome. Thank you.
Councillor Edwards.
If we turn this down, they could still build the aerodrome separately. We could, instead of the almost 29 feet there, they could have an 8-foot dock going out and save 20 feet of actual dock. And it would be an aerodrome at the exact location, would it not?
Mr. Snyder.
Thank you. And through you, I'd like to confirm that the aerodrome is constructed today, as it appears in this application. On inspection, township inspector arrived at site, observed, actually, the applicant informed us before we arrived at site that there was an aerodrome, and they provided us documentation of pilot's license and Aeronautics Act information. We acknowledged that in receipt and attended site, evaluated the permitted dock, and acknowledged that the aerodrome was constructed, I believe, as indicated today.
Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. In my wee bit of experience, it was always rammed through me that we are to look at an application as if it's a blank page. And while I appreciate what is being said, so I'm looking at this application as a blank page, and the discussion about the possibility of allowing more because of the severance possibilities, I would be more wanting, if we're doing this extra, I'm going to call it a party dock, because I'm still concerned that we're going in that direction and we've been supposed to be moving away from that direction for many, many years. That in fact, put it on the portion that you would sever that. I don't believe that there's any opportunity for this to be properly looked at under a severance application if the structures are all joint. You know, if it's just for a plane, because I'll just say there's a few people in the bay that I'm in a lot that have planes, and in fact they're not even close to their boathouses. So I'm looking at that, and I'm wondering if that, you know, and again, I'm looking at a blank page because that's how we're supposed to look at it as the planning committee. But I also feel I'm a little concerned and will question the documents that have been provided about future development. Like we show where possibly a building will be and possibly this. And why I'm going this way is because I've also been told over the years that what we submit is actually part of a future package that the building department or others can go to and say, oh, council approved this. I'm not sure what these other structures are, or even the measurements of what they're proposing, because it's again, the whole package.
Ms. Crowder, if you can comment on that, and then I'm going to read the resolution.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, it's Councillor Nishikawa. There is a site plan agreement that has been approved for this property for the buildings and structures that you see outside of the shoreline structures that we're talking about today. So the on-land structures, the dwelling, the garage, septic system, those features were approved through site plan agreement 10724.
But we don't have that here.
No, site plan agreements are delegated to staff under the province, so we approve them. I agree with Councillor Nishikawa. When we look at planning applications, we look at them as a blank slate, as if the structures were not built. What I would say is that if this committee has concerns about these larger docks, the policy in the official plan needs to be amended because the policy in the official plan permits this type of application. And you will see it again and again for large lots that are under severance potential. And quite frankly, staff can't defend otherwise. The policy's in here. It's been put in place by this council, and it permits this. So that's why you'll see staff recommending approval. Thank you.
Committee, I'm going to read the resolution, then Councillor Mazan, and then Councillor Kent. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Burry. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 33/25 be approved subject to the withholding of third reading of the bylaw until such time as consent application B 0625ML is finalized to the satisfaction of the township. Councillor Mazan.
Thank you, and through you, I wasn't sure if it's a question or comment, so it's probably a bit of both.
It can be either.
I think at this point, I think I'm actually just looking for some clarity in my own mind, given we don't often see aerodrome applications come by. So as I've been listening to staff and to the applicant's agent, what I'm understanding is that this dock or aerodrome has already been built. It's already been considered as an aerodrome. So I'm assuming that this applicant is a pilot, has a pilot's license, and then is following under, it sounds to me like we don't need a permit. There's no need for a permit based upon the fact this seems to be a private aerodrome. I'm trying to learn and follow through this. So it's been built for that intended use. So my understanding is that the only reason, and I don't know if I could ask this question, are aerodromes allowed to be used for other functions other than simply the landing of a plane? So I'm seeing the nodding of a head no. So that the reason that this has come forward is that in that little shallow area, there's the possibility for kids to jump off of a dock into shallow water, the possibility to pull up a sea-doo, the possibility to sit on a dock. Is that correct?
Ms. Walker, first. Sorry, Ms. Crowder.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. To Councillor Mazan, yes, your understanding is correct. Under the Aeronautics Act, you can have this dock, this aerodrome, but it can only be used for aviation purposes. So if they want to swim from the dock, if they want to use it recreationally, if they want to dock boats or sea-doos at it, they have to come forward for municipal relief from our zoning bylaws to permit that use.
So the possibility in this is that you have a plane coming in and out, and right beside it, you have kids jumping off of a dock, is essentially what the ask is here. And that would normally under federal, I'm just trying to put this together. Clearly under the Aeronautical Act, they don't see that as a good coexisting use. So it's just, I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding this application.
Ms. Crowder.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Mazan, it's a great question. I'm not as familiar as I would like to be with the Aeronautics Act. So, but I mean, yeah, they permit it to be only aviation uses. I imagine that's because that's their purview, that's their jurisdiction. It's not really up to them to regulate docks for other uses. Perhaps the agent has more to add.
Mr. Allen, do you have any more to add on that?
Thank you. Through you. The plane will not always be on the dock. There will be times when the plane is not there, in which case other uses would occur, including swimming and boat docking. Ultimately, it's the pilot's discretion under their pilot's license and their obligations under the Act to ensure safety. They bear all of that responsibility on them.
Mr. Snyder.
Thank you. And through you, I'd also add that a dock would not be prohibited to be used as an aerodrome. For instance, a dock approved through building permit, someone could tie a plane up to, and we would have no regulation over that and no enforcement ability for the use of the property owners or the users it would be at their sole discretion at that point.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor Mazin, then Councillor Mazin, Councillor Kent, then Mayor Kelly. Then,
Okay, so thank you. And just a quick supplemental, that just to make sure I'm understanding. This dock now can have a variety of vehicles coming and going from it, and a variety of people walking on it, whether you're embarking and getting on and off a plane, on and off a Sea-Doo, or jumping into the water, essentially is what's before us here. And it's, I think what I just heard from Mr. Snyder is that can happen at any dock without our understanding. Is that correct?
Mr. Snyder?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kent.
Thank you. I have a couple of related questions. And this just be maybe my ignorance. Are all plane docks in the township aerodromes, or are they just docks that they've been allowed to park boats on? That's my first question. Because I guess I go back to Councillor Edwards' comments about the size of this as a quote aerodrome. Are there specific rules in the aerodrome restrictions about the size of the requirement of the dock, or have they built it to a much larger than necessary size? That's my first question.
Ms. Crowder, can you comment on that? There was really two questions in there, but.
Are all plane docks aerodromes?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Kent, I think that it would be about the use. So if you're using it for aviation purposes, that's not really a use that the dock, per our zoning definition, would permit. So I would think that it would fall under the jurisdiction of an aerodrome if it's being used for those purposes. Any dock in the township. That's just my off-the-cuff thought.
So that means that there are a lot of docks being used for planes in the township. We have no idea if those docks are proper related to whether they've been registered as aerodromes or they're just people not using the docks that we've already pre-approved for planes.
Ms. Crowder?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Kent. If the docks are being used for aeronautical purposes, it would be the jurisdiction of Transport Canada to be monitoring and enforcing. Based on the information we have today, I don't know how much of that is going on. But I think there is onus put on the pilots themselves, as Mr. Allen has stated, under their licenses, that they are docking at docks that are safe for that purpose. But yes, I think there are probably lots of docks in the township that are being used for those purposes under municipally permitted docks. But I don't know that the use would actually...
It would be non-compliant.
You raise a good point for us to look into.
Yeah, and I guess my
it looks like
question,
Director Huff maybe has some thoughts. Thanks.
and I just had one other question, which was back to Councillor Edwards' comment, which is, are there rules specific under the aerodrome rules that tell you how large an aerodrome can and should and must be, minimum, maximum, for a plane of a certain size? Because I think I'd like to go back, which is what he originally asked, I'd like to defer this and make sure we understand those rules and regs. Because I think it perhaps may be larger than is necessary.
All right, so the first question, Director Huff.
Thank you, Chair. So my thought was just simply that if a dock is being used for aeronautical purposes, it simply would not fall under the zoning bylaw. I think the crux of this application is the structure itself was constructed under the Aeronautical Act, and the structure itself will remain in place, notwithstanding a decision here today, provided it continues to be used for aeronautical purposes. What's before us today is whether or not committee wishes to approve the use of that structure for boating, for recreational purposes. And if that's the case, if committee chooses a desire to permit that, it would also require that dock to get a building permit. And so I just wanted to be clear with the committee that notwithstanding the decision today, provided the dock is continuing to be used for aeronautical purposes, the structure itself will remain. What we're really talking about today is use.
Right, but my question relates to the fact that we have to approve a 50-foot or whatever the exact number is exemption to our maximum dock width in order to allow them to swim and boat and do other things at the dock. And I'm just saying we're being forced to a higher number if the dock was built bigger than necessary. And I guess if we don't have any jurisdiction over that, we don't, but I would like to understand whether or not it was the minimum or maximum size, because we're being asked to make a large concession here.
Ms. Crowder?
Through you, Chair, thank you. I just wanted to make a clarification to my earlier comment. I'm just looking at the definition of dock, and it does speak to other floating vessels are permitted to be berthed there. So I think that it would include a float plane. So I wanted to correct my earlier comments. I think it would be a permitted use under the dock definition. As far as how big the dock would need to be respective to the size of the plane, we don't have that information before us today. I would just, and we can certainly, staff can go back and do that research. I would just say that it's not going to change our recommendation. Our recommendation's been put forward as if this is a dock, which it is, but regardless of the aviation component, it meets the official plan policies, it conforms to them. So staff would continue to recommend approval.
Just, can I have one more follow-up?
One more, Councillor Kent.
What is the motivation, if that's the case, that we can dock anything we want on a dock of becoming an aerodrome? Except for the fact that they get pre-approval to do this without having to get the exemption that is now being requested. And maybe that's for Mr. Ryan Allen.
I'm not sure the question is very clear. The motivation.
Why?
Question is,
if you could have gotten approval by doing what you're doing now to build a dock that was allowed to park a plane, what was the incentive of becoming an aerodrome?
Mr. Allen?
Thank you. Through you. The incentive to becoming an aerodrome allowed the dock to be constructed at the same time as the boathouse dock. All of the work happened, concurrently. We didn't have to be staged. The dock is going to be used for aviational purposes, regardless if the bylaw is approved or not. The owner has an interest in using the dock for aviation purposes. And I think, to follow on with Councillor Burry's comment, we didn't want to be seen as potentially having the application denied. Clearly, it's a very controversial application. And then simply proceeding with the construction of the dock anyhow. And the committee becoming aware that this dock was constructed after it was denied, and we seem to be sneaking around trying to get an exemption under the act. That was not our intention. It was, I think we're the only ones that have ever come forward to try to legalize and use an aviation dock or an aerodrome, excuse me, in compliance with the zoning bylaw. There are other docks out there there are other aerodromes out there that are not used exclusively for aviational purposes, which are not permitted. And I think the township has dealt, with a number of issues and complaints in the past and how that is managed. So we're trying to do the right thing by getting the approval. And it's, I hope you can see that. Thank you.
Mr. Allen, there's an open, Mayor Kelly next. There's an open question around the length of the dock. Does the Coy Wolf report stipulate or mandate a certain dock length based on the size of the airplane? There's some concern that the dock is longer than it needs to be.
It's my understanding that that dock was designed with guidance of Coy Wolf Aviation to be the smallest dock as possible in order to accommodate the plane safely.
Thank you. Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. And through you, just a couple of comments. First of all, absolutely do not need to register.
Yeah, we've read.
Just because I got my hand up, so I wasn't sure.
Sorry. We have read the vote.
You don't need to have a registration to have an aerodrome. There's no doubt about that in my mind, having read what I've just quickly read. But there are certain requirements that need to be met even for an unregistered one, and they look to me to be pretty simple. But I think we should know whether they're in compliance. Maybe it doesn't matter to us. I don't know. The real question for me is one of jurisdiction. If this thing is an aerodrome by somebody's definition, by federal government definition, what gives the local municipality the right to overturn restrictions on use in federal legislation? We're just a municipality. We can't come along and tell the federal government, oh, we turned that around, we gave them permission, even though you said we can't. Right? There's got to be some question about who has the authority. How do we have the authority to overturn the Aeronautics Act when it comes to the use of the dock, which is part of the aerodrome? By the way, aerodrome is much bigger than the structure. It includes the water around the structure. That's where I'm stuck. Who are we to challenge or overturn a requirement of the Aeronautics Act when it comes to the construction and maintenance of an aerodrome?
Mr. Snyder, then Councillor Roberts, and then Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. And to respond to a question of the Aeronautics Act and minimum dimensions or maximum dimensions of an aerodrome, my experience in previous reviews of the Act, there is no specific dimensions, max or min, provided within that Act. To Mr. Mayor's comments and questions of what authority do we have or jurisdiction do we have to overturn or impose our will on a federal regulation, we would have none. And what I would express is that that was the approach taken by the building inspector at time of inspection. If committee saw fit to defeat this proposal, this would remain an aerodrome. It would become an issue of ensuring that it is not used as a dock. It is not used for other purposes. And that would fall to the bylaw enforcement division. I hope that answers that concisely.
In essence, any landowner can build an aerodrome.
Correct. And as the mayor said, there's no requirement for registration. You can build an aerodrome. You can build an aerodrome.
And is a building permit needed?
No. We have no authority to impose provincial or municipal regulations on a federal legislation.
Councillor Roberts and Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. This has been a challenging one. And I've been going all over my head in this. And so just to confirm, if we turn this down, it's an aerodrome. And the question I had before I heard that was that we've had people speaking to this today, making their opinion of what is compliant. And I think we need to defer this to get the expert to confirm that the size of that dock, the wing, is the minimum that can happen. I'm also going to, with that, just as, someone says, hey, that dock's the right size. I'm just saying, let's get some expert to say it is. And the other part is, I'm maybe foolish suggesting this, but should this be peer reviewed? I could be wrong. I'm just throwing that out there, maybe be ignorant of but thank you.
Councillor Nishikawa, then Mayor Kelly.
I believe that I heard that this application came forward because they want permission to use this aerodrome for a private dock. If I'm looking at that, I would not allow this private dock approval I'm very concerned that we're going to get more people applying for large party decks, private docks, alongside their boathouses that are max width out. Because we approved this one to be used as a regular dock, like full of patio furniture, all of those other things that in fact plane would wipe out if, you know, it was gonna be used. But I would not approve this application today to have the dock as regular residential use. It can still stay there. I don't have any jurisdiction on that. But I do have, the question was asked of me as a counselor, would I approve this as the party dock that has been presented today? And I do not, I would not approve use of it. However, bylaw wants to deal with that, that's a different conversation. And I do believe bylaw should be involved if this moves forward. But I don't believe that we should be just blessing the use of this dock as an additional party dock.
Mayor Kelly.
Thank you, and through you. I just want to respond to a couple of things. Councilor Roberts said, if we don't approve this, it's an aerodrome. And my submission is, if we do approve it, it's still an aerodrome. So I don't know, when we talk about enforcement, we need advice, I think, which is my understanding based on a quick read. We show up and find somebody swimming off an aerodrome dock. I'm not sure what the offense is at a municipal level. It may be a contravention of the Aeronautics Act, but we don't enforce their stuff.
Councillor Edwards.
This is a hard one, but I think we should get it peer reviewed. I think we should defer this at the time because everybody is putting aerodromes in. Oh, well, it's an aerodrome. It's an aerodrome. When you look at this, this is almost another 700 square feet of party dock, plus what's already there. And that, I go to Windermere and a float plane comes in and it can end at the end of an 8-foot dock. And an expert should be able to say, you know, you don't need it another 30 feet of aerodrome and that. And there's got to be some regulations, but I can't pass this as a party dock at this point. I would like it deferred, and that's so we can get experts and that opinion on it, because everybody from now on will be putting an aerodrome in.
Ms. Crowder, could you go over again your point about your opinion about how this complies with our official plan?
Through you, Chair, yes, I would be happy to. So there is a section in our official plan, the 2013 official plan, that is currently in effect, and it's section B13.4E, which states that to maintain the balance of natural and built form, the maximum cumulative width of shoreline structures, including all docks, shall be the lesser of 25% or 75 feet of the lot's water frontage, with the exception of the following. And the exception, one of the criteria, is large residential properties with severance potential, as determined by the township, which shall generally be limited to 25% per minimum water frontage on potential lots. This policy has been carried forward into the 2023 official plan. However, the 2023 version of that policy has been appealed. So we refer back to the 2013 policy until the appeals have been resolved. This policy essentially states that if the lot has severance potential, which in this case, it appears to meet the frontage and area requirements and would have severance potential, applications can be made for larger docks than the 75 feet in width, and that we would typically be looking at what is 25% of each potential lot that could be created, and what is that resultant number. So the application at hand conforms to that policy of the official plan, and therefore staff are in a position where it conforms to our official plan policy, and we recommend approval on that basis. So that's the official plan backing and why staff's recommendation is approval.
And Ms. Crowder, the dock plus the aerodrome, what percentage of the total? How much different is, if it was severed, what would be the total amount and how much less?
Thank you, Chair.
Roughly. Or is it less? I think it is less.
So if you had two docks that, if you had two, through you, Chair, if you had two lots, which is what I believe the current property could be, result in, two lots, they'd each be permitted 75 feet of cumulative dock width, which equates to 150 feet of shoreline structure width. The application at hand seeks 127 feet in total cumulative width, so they are below that threshold.
By 23 feet.
That's right. Thank you.
Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I'm through you. I'm not sure who can answer this, but the numbers that I look at, and I know the applicant had talked about 600 feet, and I was looking at another size of the property to determine where the severance would be. And so I don't know that I'm comfortable just accepting with the numbers that are in my package that each property would be allowed 75% lot coverage or 75 feet. And that's just based on, and we all understand peninsula and different things, and it's not all sides are part of it. So I thought I read 566 feet or something in that range. But mostly I don't want to deceive. Like I feel like we're trying to do things that, quite frankly, is against policies we've brought forward in the past and we've actually enforced for people. And I just feel like we're stretching things a little bit here.
Ms. Crowder, if you could talk about your rationale for how this is a divisible lot into two lots?
Yes, through you, Chair. The subject property has currently approximately 602 feet of straight line frontage. Now, the straight line frontage is a little bit deceiving in this case because it is a peninsula property, and I know committee's familiar with how frontage is measured. The official plan, however, doesn't define how frontage is to be measured. So the actual frontage of the property is 1,378 feet. That's is the actual frontage of this lot. So with a straight line frontage of 602 feet, the required lot frontage per section E433E of the township's 2023 official plan is 295 feet of frontage. So if you were to divide the 602 by 2, you're at 301 feet, which meets that requirement for your straight line frontage. I would say that the straight line frontage, because of the shape of the property, it might not end up being the 301 feet, but based on the information we have, it satisfies that frontage requirement under the official plan. And just to clarify the comments about frontage, the bylaw defines the frontage as straight line frontage measurement. However, the official plan does not. So, thank you.
Mr. Allen, I see you have your hand up. If you might add, have you had things to add?
I just wanted to clarify so there's no misunderstanding about aerodrome and docks. The owners are willing to forego the classification of this dock as an aerodrome. As soon as the dock is not exclusively used for aviation purposes, it cannot be an aerodrome under the Avionics Act. So they are willing to forego that classification and instead proceed under the municipal zoning bylaw to obtain approval for the increased width. That is the, I think maybe if there's a bit of confusion about the aerodrome will cease to exist on this site. It will become any other dock, as was pointed out, and any plane or floating vessel can moor at any dock. So that's a scenario that will exist if the application is approved. It will be a dock just like any dock. It will be wider if approved, and a plane can dock at it from time to time, just like any other dock in the municipality. And in response to Mr. Councillor Roberts' comments, Coy Wolf has provided a letter, and you'll notice in the last paragraph, as well as throughout the letter itself, they have evaluated the proposed dock configuration, and based on their opinion as expert aviators with significant operational and management experience and a rigorous understanding of aviation safety best practices, protocols, and Transport Canada Canadian aviation regulations, the proposed dock design is acceptable and recommended for implementation. So it was on that basis and with their guidance that the dock was designed and constructed the way that it is.
Thank you. Councillor Mazin, you have your hand up.
Thank you. And through you, I can't even remember what I was going to ask anymore. Just coming back to what is before us from staff, that given the size and scale of this property and the potential for a severance, and given our comprehensive zoning bylaw and official plan guidance, they could put forward this recommendation for this extension of it. Let's just call it a dock for argument's sake. But that's unique to this property, just given the size and scale of it. I think, and there's a reason I'm asking this question. Every other application that would have to come before us, there would have to be some kind of rationale for an extension of any kind of dock that would have to fall within something that staff could recommend.
Ms. Crowder, and I might just add another question on that. It's not unusual for us to get over width docks on extra large lots. Is that correct? It's almost a double question there.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to yourself and Councillor Mazan. Yes. So the official plan includes policy language for certain exemptions where it might be appropriate to apply to the township for over width docks and or boathouses. And it's not an uncommon application that we receive for large properties. But yes, it's case by case specific. You could not, as of right, build a dock that's over 75 feet in width. You would have to come before this committee in the form of a zoning bylaw amendment. But the official plan includes wording to allow landowners to do so.
Okay, and just a quick supplemental, simply in this, it's a term that I've heard used. And do we have a definition of something called a party deck anywhere? Or is that just an implied use? And I just think we have to be careful sitting around this body when
Ms. Crowder?
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Mazan, no, that is not a defined term in our official plan or in our zoning bylaw.
Thank you.
Committee, is there any member who wants to bring forward a resolution on this? Because I think we have got this about as far as we could go. Councillor Nishikawa?
I had thought I heard the mayor and Councillor Edwards requested a deferral.
Mayor Kelly?
Thank you. The problem is I don't even know what's left to answer, to ask. I mean, to be honest with you.
Okay, I'm going to call a question. Would you like me to reread the resolution? All those in favor? 2, 3. All 4. Keep your hands up, please.
Yeah, please, your favor.
And I'll let the
3, 4, and I'm not sure you. 5.
all those opposed?
1, 2. Okay. Oh, excuse me, yeah, 5 to.
That carries.
Thank you,
All
committee.
right.
I know that was a long one, so I appreciate all the comments. Thank you.
All right.
Could you just repeat the vote on that? Just tell me what the numbers were. I was just curious. I thought it was 5-5.
5-4.
We only have 9 because Glenn isn't here.
Right. All right, we're going on to the next application, or do we all need a 5-minute break on that one? All right, let's take a 5-minute break. Be back at 25:02.
even though we're on the point.
All right. Ms. Crowder. No, that's fine. The next report is Ms. Crowder at ZBA 34/25 Bogart. And if you could give us your report. Joey. Ready?
All right, thank you, Chair Bosenworth. The next application to be heard is zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 3425 in the name of Bogart. The subject lands are known municipally as 1060 Inverness Road, units number 8 and 15. Next slide, please. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted zoning sketch on page 347 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is to permit the development of an accessory dwelling unit on a lot in the waterfront commercial, resort commercial waterfront WC1 zone with an undersized lot frontage. The subject lands are the site of Bogart Cottages, an operating tourist resort with 7 housekeeping units. The purpose of the proposed accessory dwelling unit is to house the owner, operator of the resort. Next slide, please. The requested exemption is summarized as shown on the screen and includes an exemption to permit the development of an accessory dwelling on an undersized lot. This table was included in the circulation materials and provided in the agenda package. Next slide, please. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 29 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Matt Veach, the Township's Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator, Paul Lydon, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, and Sarah Campbell, Planner for the District of Muskoka, all stating no objection to the application. Next slide, please. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. Staff recommend that the application be approved. I have no further comments at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
The applicants, do we have an agent for this one? Yes, Mr. Fawner.
Chairman Bosenworth, and anyways, it's Steve Fawner, Northern Division Planning Limited, 109 Got Heights Drive, Pacific Trail, UNL 184. I'm here representing the Bogart, so present here today. I would like to thank staff for the positive report. It's maybe a little bit of a different application, for sure, but
Thank you. So anyways, I think I'm hoping that the application will be fairly straightforward, but we'll go through and show you where the property is and so forth for those who maybe didn't have the time to go through my report. The property, the essence of the application as mentioned is it has insufficient frontage in a WC1 lot, and there's no existing lot of provision or existing lot of record provision as there is with residential properties. The property does have 340 feet of frontage and 28 acres. Now, the frontage itself, I will say, is just recently been enlarged because of an amalgamation due to inheritance of a portion of the property. So before that, it did not have 340 feet of frontage. It was much less than that, actually. Next. So as shown where this is located, I just wanted to point out to where the cottages are, the housekeeping cottages, that shoreline to the proposed dwelling site is over 1,000 feet. But what's not shown on this particular drawing is that there's a portion of 3 Mile Lake to the south of this that's closer, but we're still over 500 feet from the lake at that point. Next. And this is a driveway in. This is a driveway in off of Cutler Road to the proposed building site. Next. This is just showing Cutler Road looking, this would be more or less north. Next. And Cutler Road looking south, and that's the existing entrance on the right there. Next. And this is the proposed building site. It's all relatively open right now. Would not require much site alteration. Next. And this is the, would be the view out of the front of the dwelling facing 3 Mile Lake where the housekeeping cottages are. So about 1,000 feet, you obviously can't see the lake. Next. And this is just the driveway that goes from the building site back out to Cutler Road. Next. And I just wanted to show this. This is an area not far from the building site. This is actually in the rural RU1 zone. They could have obtained a building permit for this as of right in this area, but there is a hill that would have involved quite a bit of site alteration and tree removal. So it felt best the site that we have chosen is a better site than this. Next. And this is just the cottages along the waterfront. Next. And this is taken from the dock towards some of the cottages. Next. And this is from the dock. If you turn a bit to the right, you'll see the other cottages. They're very small and modest cottages. It's been a housekeeping resort for many, many years. Next. So in terms of planning analysis, the district OP is supportive of resort development, and this would assist in the long-term viability of Bogart cottages by having on-site management and dwelling there. Next. It's confirmed the location is within the waterfront designation, although it's a little bit open to interpretation, but the actual zone map shows it as waterfront commercial. Next. As I mentioned, the location of the property is such that, in my opinion, there'd be very, very minimal impact on 3 Mile Lake, and it will not affect the recreational carrying capacity as well. Next. When considering a zoning, there is that criteria in the official plan under section N3. I won't go through all those things that were in my planning justification report, but in my opinion, we conform with those. And we're well under the lot coverage and the provision that limits it to 500 square feet of floor area per acre zone. We're at just over half of that. So, next. Again, I'll just point out that the increase in lot frontage was fairly recent. Maybe when the municipality goes through its zoning bylaw, the appropriate zone for this property is probably a WC 1A2 or WC 1A3, of which a dwelling is actually permitted as of right. Next. And I don't think I need to go through all the conclusions there, and hoping that you see your way towards approval and allow a dwelling on this property. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Connor. Do we have anybody wishing to speak for or against this application? Nobody in the room and nobody online. Okay. Committee, do we have any questions on this application? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Mazin, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 34/25 Bogart be approved. Is there any discussions or questions on this one? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Carried. Our next application is a report from Director Huff.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. The report before you provides an overview of the 2025 activities of the Building Bylaw, Licensing, Planning, and Economic Development Divisions of the Township. This report is presented to you as information only, so no resolution for this one. First, I want to start with some gratitude for the dedication of all of the members of these teams. Each and every one of the staff are experts in their own area, are professional, and are up to the challenges that come before them. We are constantly learning and trying to make improvements where we can, and it's been a real pleasure to work with them this past year. I've certainly look forward to 2026 with that same frame of mind, excited to tackle the year's projects ahead and all of the things that we will learn along the way. This report, it's detailed, but most of the detail are actually in the appendices, and I want to highlight just some of the activities from each of the departments. So with respect to building, unlike a lot of area municipalities around us, we did not see a downturn in permit activity. In fact, we had an increase relative to last year and the year before. So we've seen 1,100 building permits, construction value and permit fees increased. These members of the team conducted 8,000 inspections, 82 orders, and that doesn't include the work that was associated with the sewage inspection and maintenance program. There was a year-round report in December on that, so I'd refer you to that if you would like those stats. Our economic development team of one did quite a lot this year. So you've seen the successful recruitment of a new primary care physician, and our economic development official was quite involved in that process. I met, again, many CIP applications, community grant programs, special event permits, et cetera, et cetera. This year, we're focusing on an update to the economic development strategy. Council will be quite involved in that, and that will continue on throughout the year. From a bylaw perspective, we have also seen another busy year, and in fact, we've seen a trend of increasing occurrences in bylaw enforcement, 464 investigations this year in 2025. Predominantly those related to tree conservation, site alteration, property standards, dog control, zoning, and parking. That was similar to other years as well. This past year, you also seen for the first year that this division was actively doing boat patrols on the 3 big lakes, and that's something that we anticipate continuing to do. We've also established an appeals committee approving a new bylaw, updating the STRA bylaw, updating the AMPS bylaw for various other sub bylaws that we're working with. And of course, as committee knows, commencing with an update to the noise bylaw, which we will have an update for you next month. From licensing, again, our staff of one, again, also very busy. There were a number of just business licenses, so that's trailer parks, food establishments, 68 licenses and permits for those. And then when we get to short-term rentals, we successfully launched the program in July. And by the end of 2025, we had received 173 license applications. Of those, 54 were issued permits, and 137 are still in various stages of the review and approval process. With respect to the planning team, although larger, this team has weathered a number of staff changes, maternity leaves, onboarding, et cetera, and that will continue on in 2026 and 2027. But I've been impressed with how well this team works together to help each other during these transitions, putting extra hours in to make sure that the work is covered, and in general, just a desire to improve processes. So I think we're making some real headway there. And this bodes well for future years. It's been a busy year from planning perspective, 653 planning applications, 9 OLT hearings, as well as some major projects that, again, committee is well aware of. We have the Manette project, we have the Bala Bay zoning application that was processed. We have the ongoing zoning bylaw review. The district is updating their OP, which planning staff are quite involved in. Integrated watershed management, and of course, there's a continuation of appeals for the official plan, the 2023 official plan, which we are continuing to manage. So all in all, I think I can say that the staff are being kept very busy, but I do really appreciate all of the work that everybody has put in this year. It's been a lot to manage, and I just love the staff that I work with. So I just want to leave it there. Happy to answer any questions.
Committee. A lot of information there in the report, and most of it really very interesting, I find. Any questions for Director Huff? Director Huff, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. Our final piece of business today is cash in lieu of parking. And the report on that will be by Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Bosenworth. Well, I'll just wait for it to get queued up.
Yes.
Okay. So the next application, I believe the last application of the day, is cash in lieu of parking application CP 0125 in the name of 87 Joseph Street Holdings, Inc. The subject lands are known municipally as 87 Joseph Street. Next slide, please. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 411 of the agenda package. As committee may recall, this application was first heard in May of 2025, where it was deferred until such time as confirmation be received from the District of Muskoka, confirming the availability of an entrance permit. Since this time, the district has confirmed the availability of a conditional entrance permit, and the applicant has now requested that the application return to committee for a decision to be rendered. The applicant proposes to construct a private clinic, which would constitute the main use of the property. In addition to the private clinic, the applicant proposes to incorporate 3 apartment dwellings into the building as accessory uses. The proposed development is deficient by 6 parking spaces to comply with the township zoning bylaw. The applicant is proposing to enter into an agreement with the township to pay cash in lieu of creating the required parking spaces. Next slide, please. The proposed development requires a total of 13 parking spaces per the township zoning bylaw. 6 spaces are proposed underground. However, I wouldn't say underground, in the first level of the building. However, only 3 of these contribute toward the overall parking calculation, as the other 3 run in tandem to them. These spaces are proposed to be dedicated to the accessory residential dwelling units. Next slide, please. The township zoning bylaw allows for up to 33% of the required parking spaces to be provided via boat slips. The applicant proposed 4 boat slips, bringing the parking calculation to be deficient by 6. The applicant has indicated that these boat slips are intended to be dedicated to the residential use of the property. However, this request does not lend itself to the primary use of the property being commercial in nature, as required per the C3 zoning and core commercial designation of the official plan. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff recommend that a condition be imposed wherein a provision be included within the cash in lieu of parking agreement to the effect of requiring that the spaces be available to the public for access to the commercial use of the property and not reserved for private residential use. Next slide, please. As previously mentioned, the district has confirmed the availability of a conditional entrance permit. Technical studies were provided to the district and the township, which have been included in the agenda package today. These studies include a number of recommendations, including but not limited to the requirement that the public parking spaces along Joseph Street abutting the property be removed and marked as a no parking zone. Given the parking deficiency in the core Port Carling area, township staff are of the opinion that if committee is considering approval of the application today, that a condition should be imposed wherein the parking spaces be relocated within Port Carling at the cost of the applicant to the satisfaction of the township, and that as part of the cash in lieu of parking agreement, that provisions be included to implement the necessary recommendations of the technical studies. Further, the proposal as designed would appear to require cars to back out of the in tandem spaces onto Joseph Street. Planning and operational services staff have concerns with this from a safety perspective and potential congestion and collision along Joseph Street. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff recommend that a condition be imposed that a revised site plan be received, which demonstrates a sufficient turnaround radius on site for the proposed parking stalls to the satisfaction of the township and the district, the aim of which is to ensure that cars leaving the property are leaving in a front-facing position. Next slide, please. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommend that the application be approved subject to the aforementioned conditions, in addition to standard conditions that the township imposes on cash in lieu applications. I have no further comments at this time, but I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe the applicant's agent is sitting patiently waiting. Mr. Fortescue, if you could start with your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, planning staff and members of council. My name is Alex Fortescue with Fortescue Design Associates located at 3 Lee Valley Drive, Unit 2, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. We first approached the planning staff in March 2024 to start discussing this project. As Emily had mentioned, we are proposing 3 residential apartment dwellings as the accessory use to a proposed private clinic that satisfies the requirement for the main use of this building to be commercial. The uses proposed are legal and complying with the current zoning bylaw and fill a hole in the Port Carling core where real estate offices run rampant. The hole is an accessible option for aging cottagers that once had on-water cottages and now either are unable to or decide not to keep up with the maintenance associated with owning a larger property. This proposal gives a turnkey product to residents, access to the Indian River, shopping and dining in Port Carling. Since the lot is small and has some pre-existing district underground services with the setbacks on the riverside, it was not possible to achieve the amount of parking spaces required by the zoning bylaw. We are more than happy to pay the cash in lieu fees to assist with the township's efforts in organizing and planning public parking in the future. I read the report provided by planning staff, and I thank you for the recommendation of the cash in lieu parking approval with the conditions proposed. However, I did want to address these conditions for council's consideration. One of the conditions is that a revised site plan be submitted to show a turnaround radius for residents to turn around from a park position and face frontward. My client has hired a professional engineer, Telec Engineering, to complete a traffic analysis and a sightline report in the busiest time of the year, which is June, July in Port Carling. Staff have included these reports for your consideration. The proposed design condition of parking and exiting the property has been addressed by the professional engineer in a positive manner, and I wanted to point out that many other parking scenarios throughout the Port Carling core have similar or much worse sightline conditions for parking and reversing into oncoming traffic, like Scotiabank, than what we are proposing at 87 Joseph Street. The other condition is that the existing public parking space in front of 87 Joseph Street to be relocated at the cost of the applicant. We're fine to pay these fees and accept this condition. The only thing I would ask is for staff to itemize what those costs would be, as we do not know at this time. I wanted to point out that I sent an email to Emily Crowder on January 12th, focusing on existing properties along Joseph Street that have potential public parking opportunities. I believe this shows good faith and shows willingness to comply and work with the township. My hope is that this cash in lieu application moves forward, as well as our subsequent site plan application, permit to build, and eventual construction, because I believe that this proposal makes a great contribution to the economic growth of the town of Port Carling. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody wishing to speak for or against this application? Seeing none. Committee, let's start with the questions. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I'm going to take advantage of our Director of Public Works in the room.
I think he's here for that
his
purpose.
Comments on this situation in parking. I'm in the understanding that whenever we get applications like this, or is that we're supposed to be improving situations, I feel like we're kind of taking away, and I'm not sure where this additional parking is going to come from.
Director Colucci.
And through you, Mr. Chair. So we have not taken a close look at the parking in the vicinity of this property. But, you know, briefly in the fall, I did a walk with my staff, and it looks like, you know, we could accommodate more parking in close proximity just by repainting some of the lines and reducing some of the spots, because some of the spots are very long. So if we reduce them down to normal length, then we can accommodate them. And surely if we look, in all of the Port Carling downtown core, we should be able to get 2 more spots somewhere in there. So would be the goal. And I'll work with the applicant's engineer to come up with a plan to locate them. And as far as the cost, it would be, basically line painting. So, the cost wouldn't be substantial, but, we'd have to probably scrape some old lines off and add some new lines.
Councillor Nishikava, follow up?
Just as a further, because I've raised this before, accessibility in Port Carling, and I'm asking, has accessibility been taken into consideration? Because from the bigger perspective, we are not offering any safe navigation for people that are needing accessible devices.
Director Colucci.
Great, Mr. Chair. So, there are accessible parking spots on some of the on-street spots. So like right across the road from here near the post office, there is an accessible spot. So it has been addressed overall. But, as you're aware, there's only sidewalk on one side of the road and there's no sidewalk on the other. So obviously somewhere down the road, the district will be reconstructing the road through Port Carling. And then at that time, we look at upgrading to have sidewalks on both sides and more, more accessibility at that time.
Thank you. Committee, any other questions? Councillor Mazan.
Thank you, and through you. I just wanted some clarification as I was listening to the boat parking. And just wanted to understand the approach being recommended to going forward would be to allow for the transient parking for the general public to be able to come and tie up at that spot because of the primary use being commercial. Is that the correct approach, or is that being recommended?
Ms. Crowder.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Bosenworth, Councillor Mazan. The staff are recommending that those spaces be available for the public who are coming to the property to use the commercial use of the property. So individuals who are coming to use the clinic would be able to dock there, and we're recommending that it not be solely reserved spaces for the residents of the accessory dwelling units.
Just a quick supplemental, so that would make sense, so that there's the combination of perhaps some permanent parking for any of the residents, but the ability for people who are wanting to participate in the business to come by water. Is that correct? That's what I heard.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Mazan, the on-land parking spaces are going to be dedicated to the residential use of the property. The dock slips would be available to either. So it would be available to the residential people on the property, but also must be made available to the public who are coming to use the commercial component, because this is a commercial property and the main use has to be commercial in nature.
Ms. Crowder, I think there are 4 slips on the dock, are there? And 3 apartments being proposed, correct?
Through you, Chair, that's correct.
All right, thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Yes, thank you, through the chair. How many parking spots are we taking off the street? Just the one in front of the building or other ones for sightline?
Ms. Crowder.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Edwards, it's 2 spaces. So one is directly in front and about half, 1.5 are directly in front, and both would need to be closed off for the sightline purposes per the technical studies.
Okay. Do they have a turning circle so they drive out, or are they backing out?
Ms. Crowder.
Through you, Chair, to Councillor Edwards, today they do not have a turnaround. So the staff are recommending that a condition of any potential approval be that they redesign the site plan to include a turnaround on the property so that vehicles are leaving in a front-facing position.
Ms. Crowder, the applicant indicated that their engineer said that wasn't required. Can you bridge those 2 positions?
Through you, Chair, absolutely. So the technical studies that have been submitted They initially didn't speak to whether vehicles would be leaving the property in a front-facing position or backing out. So staff did reach out and just to make sure that they have considered that, given that there's no turnaround on site, that cars would be backing out. So they did respond and provide a subsequent response to staff and state that they acknowledge that cars may be backing out from the property onto Joseph Street, and that those cars backing out wouldn't have the sight line that they need. However, the cars on Joseph Street would view those cars backing out as the object, and that the cars on the street have sufficient time to see that object to stop. So that supersedes the sightline requirements of the individual car leaving. However, staff at the township have some concerns there. I think we recognize that this is a congested area, especially in the summer, and having 6 cars, especially in tandem, because you'd have to have the car closest to the road back out and then the car in front back out in order to get out, that it could cause some issues.
Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. And through you, I have a question about the report from, I forget, was it Tulloch that did the report on parking? I understand that they were comfortable with the sight lines backing a car into car traffic. Were they comfortable, or was there any comment about the possibility of injury to pedestrians walking down the sidewalk? Because unlike Scotia, where you back out of those diagonal parking spots, you're not crossing I guess you are in one spot by Scotia Bank, but I'm worried about backing through the parking, the sidewalk.
Ms. Crowder?
Through you, Chair. I don't recall any mention of that in the technical reports of the pedestrian component. And I also don't believe it spoke to snow removal, which I think is another consideration that staff are thinking about. Right now, that side of Joseph Street isn't plowed. And so the snow is all lined up there. If there was an entrance there and those spaces need to be open, you're going to push the snow elsewhere. And so there's some consideration, I think, that needs to be had in that regard. And I would also just note the applicant's right that there are lots of entrances along Joseph Street that don't meet sightline requirements. And the technical studies actually put forth a recommendation that the district should consider reducing the speed limit on Joseph Street from 50 to 40 in recognition of these insufficient driveways and entrances. We obviously don't have jurisdiction over that. The district has seen those comments and may choose to implement them or not. But, yeah, so just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Yes. Moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor McIntyre. Be it resolved that cash in lieu of parking application CP-01/25, 87 St. Joseph, 87 Joseph Street Holdings, Inc., be approved subject to the following conditions. The revised site plan be received which demonstrate a sufficient turnaround radius on site for the proposed parking stalls to the satisfaction of the Township of Muskoka Lakes and the District Municipality of Muskoka, and that the public parking spaces along Joseph Street that are required to be removed per the submitted technical reports referred to in Staff Report Plan 2026-028 be relocated within Port Carling to the satisfaction of the Township of Muskoka Lakes at the cost of the applicant, and the cash in lieu of parking agreement for required parking spaces be entered into between the Township of Muskoka Lakes and 87 Joseph Street Holdings, Inc., and that cash in lieu of parking agreement shall include provisions requiring implementation of necessary recommendations contained with the technical documents detailed in Staff Report Plan 2026-28, including the Sightline Review Memorandum, the traffic letter, and the proposed sight line plan, and provisions wherein the applicant agrees to include a satisfactory turnaround radius on site for the proposed parking stalls, and that the proposed dock slip shall be available to the public for access to the commercial use, i.e. not reserved for private residential use only, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute all necessary documentations. Councillor Burry.
I love this project. And I'm not concerned about the parking. They'll figure it out. It's a district road, maybe it should be a township road, and then we could deal with the speed limit ourselves, but that's a different can of worms that I open regularly. The nice thing is, it's a blend of commercial and residential. In the downtown core, it's desperately needed. They haven't asked for height variances. Like this is the kind of project we should be embracing all day, every day. And the subtlety of not being a real estate agent did not go unnoticed by me. I love it.
Councillor Nishikawa.
I think my question is going to be to Ms. Huff.
To whom?
Ms. Huff? The person next to you?
Oh.
Sorry.
I didn't hear you, that's all.
It's about that parking requirement, or not parking, sorry, the speed limit. And if staff are staff endorsing that, because we would need to have a resolution that comes from this township to the district to get it. The district just doesn't do it. They have to be asked by the municipality to do that. So is that what staff is recommending?
Director Huff.
And also, I think it's more where the 40 starts. Like we don't have to start it back at 169, for instance, or whatever. So,
Director Huff.
Thank you, through the chair. So no, that's not something that staff is recommending directly through this application. It was certainly noted as being a comment received from the applicant's engineer. It is a district matter, you're correct. If this committee felt that that was something that they wished the district to consider, I would suggest a separate resolution on that matter to be brought forward to the district.
Councillor Nishikawa.
well, I would ask committee, is this something we want to consider?
Hi again. I just want to bring up a point. Thank you, Councillor Brave, for the endorsement. So we've been working through this application for a while, and at recommendation of planning staff, we went out and at great expense of money and time, hired the professional, got the professional opinions, and now it seems like township staff are still overriding those professional opinions in one case, but then councillors like some of the professional opinions. So I'm wondering why we went out and spent the time and the money when it seems like it's not helping.
Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I think I can add some clarity to that question or comment. The district required those technical studies for the issuance of the conditional entrance permit. So those studies were required for the applicant to demonstrate that an appropriate entrance permit could be issued. They were not requested by township staff. Township staff did say we need to know that an entrance permit can be issued in this location because there are properties in the very near vicinity that the district has denied entrance permits for. So wanted to make that clear.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Forrescue.
I guess it's also very important to know that we do have that entrance permit in hand, and we can build it if we would like from the district.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Through you to staff, the turnaround, did the district insist on that when they gave the entrance permit, or was that our actual requirement?
Ms. Crowder.
Through you, Chair. The district has issued a conditional permit, which states that, I have the exact wording in the report. I don't want to misspeak. Just one moment. So they've issued a conditional commercial entrance permit subject to specific terms and conditions, including the submission of supporting engineering documentation by the applicant demonstrating that the proposed entrance can be operated safely. Final implementation and acceptance remain subject to district staff confirmation that all permit conditions have been satisfied. So it is conditional upon those items. Staff at the township level have concerns with cars exiting the property, backing out, both from a planning perspective, but more importantly, from an operational services perspective, as this is really their domain.
Okay, thank you.
Committee, any other comments on this? All right, I have read the resolution. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right. We have no other items on the agenda other than this last resolution, which is moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved that Planning Committee meeting adjourned at 12:19 p.m. and that the next regular Planning Committee meeting will be held on Thursday, March the 12th, 2026 at 9 a.m. via an electronically and in-person hybrid format from the council chambers in the municipality offices in beautiful downtown Port Carling. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And